Call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Ellsworth City Council. This is Monday, November 16, 2015 at 7 o'clock. 6 councilors are present. Councilor Moore is absent tonight. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. We ask you to stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item 3, Rules of Order. Council meetings are conducted under the Roberts Rules of Order, as well as additional rules that were adopted at the November 9th, 2015 organizational meeting. Item number 4, adoption of minutes from the following meetings of council. September 21, regular council meeting. October 13, special council meeting. October 13, special council meeting. October 19, regular council meeting. And October 23rd, special council meeting.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Item 5, City Manager's Report.
Yes.
Andrew Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, councilors. A couple items tonight. First, on December 1st at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers, Maine Department of Transportation will be holding a public hearing on a rail crossing permit at the Forest Avenue Extension Project, which will be the new entrance to the high school to be built next spring in conjunction with Maine DOT's rebuilding of Route 1A through the that area around the high school and beyond. And just wanted to let the public know this is required before we can cross the Down East Scenic Railroad. Abutters are being notified, but members of the public with an interest are encouraged to attend. I will note as a side note that the Route 1A reconstruction, which is estimated by DOT to be a project in the $7 billion range, is slated to go out to be advertised in April of 2016. So this is coming up shortly, and we need to be ready to go. And just want to publicly thank the DOT for expediting this permit hearing to make sure that we're all ready to go come the spring.
Right.
The second thing I would note is that, as you all know, the City Council has commissioned Starboard Leadership to work with the city, community groups, the staff, towards the development of a community vision. And we're at the stage now where, after a number of, I believe, 10 stakeholder group meetings, the city is soliciting those who live, work, and do business in Ellsworth to fill out an online survey. And that survey is going to be open through at least Thanksgiving. And I would encourage the public to go online at www.surveymonkey.com/r/Ellsworth Community Vision Survey 2015 and express your views, because I know it's appreciated by the council and it will have an impact as this and future councils plan for years to come. So those are my comments.
Yes, questions for the
Manager.
manager?
Would it be proper to have IT put that link on our front page so they don't have to remember it?
Right, I believe it's
on the website,
on the
yeah.
website
Okay.
and Facebook.
Okay, I had seen it in the news
Yeah.
on the scroll, but I
But-
thought
but-
if we just put an icon.
But we will double check on that and make sure it's still attached and up. And if there's any doubt, call City Hall and we'll get you the link. Oh, and I would add that should anyone not want to do it online, we will provide hard copy here at City Hall and gratefully accept your written survey results.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
Manager. Thank you, Manager Cole. Anyone have any further questions or comments? Has anything covered so far from the manager? Seeing none, item number 6, committee reports. Anyone have reports from committees that you've attended since the last regular meeting? Councilor Fortier.
Just a quick one. Recreation Commission met. Some of the discussion topics included getting the basketball sound curtains down. That has been completed on 2 separate occasions. We had crews up there and took them down. Highway Department removed them and stored them. And the issue we're working on right now is trying to finalize where the ice skating rink is going because of the slopes required to get water to sheet off loam, grassed-in grass. We're having some issues with a level place, but the field general, Mickey Sumter, and the engineer, and some of our ice skating crew are going to be up there sometime Wednesday to come up with a fix, and we'll get it going so we can have an ice skating rink this winter.
Great. Thank you. Any other committees to report tonight? Hearing none. On the matter of committees, I'd like to announce the appointment of committees for the ensuing year. So this is committee membership 2015 and 16. The Finance Committee will be made up of Councilors Beetham, Phillips, and Blanchette, and Councilor Moore will be the alternate. Human Services Committee will be Councilor Fortier, Councilor Moore, and Councilor Perkins. Human Resources, Councilor Crossway, Councilor Moore, and Councilor Perkins. Library Special Collections, Councilor Blanchette. Streetlights, Councilors Blanchette, Perkins, and Fortier. Appointment to commissions, the Recreation Commission will be Councilors Blanchette and Fortier. Harbor Commission, Councilors Moore and Phillips. And Historic Preservation, Councilor Blanchette. And then we have some ad hoc committees. The Solid Waste Committee, Councilors Beetham and Fortier. Local Roads Committee, and these committees will meet as needed. The Local Roads will be Councilor Phillips and Beetham. And then we have a couple of new ones. The Public Safety Planning Committee will be Councilors Beetham, Crossway, and Phillips. Plus, we'll be adding staff members to that as we develop future plans for the growth of our public safety departments. And the other is Parks and Leisure, and that will be Councilors Perkins, Fortier, and Blanchette, plus staff members as needed. And again, that will be with an eye to the development of the upcoming budget. We will need to have some plans in place as far as administration and management of our parks, and at the same time look into have a long-term look at leisure activities and how we want to manage those going forward. Other appointments to the Business Development Corporation, the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation Board, Councilor Crossway as an ex officio member, and City Manager Cole will also be an ex officio member of that board. Frenchman Bay Partners, Jennifer Fortier will serve again as our representative to the Frenchman Bay Partners, and the PD CDC Cable TV Consortium, Councilor Fortier will serve with Jason Ingalls, our IT director, as the alternate. Those will be your appointments for this year coming. Any questions or concerns? All right. Item 7, citizens' comments. This is a portion of the agenda dedicated to any citizen of Ellsworth that would like to address the council on any issue that's of concern, interest. We ask that you be precise, keep it brief. We don't guarantee that we give you answers tonight or take any action, but we do want to hear the concerns, and we'll start with Mr. Newitt. Please state your name for the record. And
Hi, I'm Jim Newitt. I'm a resident at 6 Parcher Street. I lived in Ellsworth for 35 years. Last 20 at 6 Parcher Street. I just wanted to express to the council my opposition to the proposed 10 condominium unit development that is slated or has already been presented to the planning board. In the preliminary round, there's been a site visit, as you probably know, on December 2nd. It will go back to the planning board. Several reasons why this doesn't seem right to me, and I'll back up even further from this particular event. People in Ellsworth, myself included, never really were aware that zoning had changed from what was formerly residential zoning to what's called neighborhood zoning. And neighborhood zoning, from what I've read, pretty much allows about anything to go. And in a neighborhood of 12 houses, it just doesn't seem logical to overload that area with a 10-unit, actually 11 units, because there's one unit already exists, and they're going to make that a condo as well. But you're basically doubling the number of residences on a neighborhood street, doubling the amount of cars, doubling the population, and so that has some impact on the infrastructure. For example, I'm very concerned with sewer and water pressure. Can the existing almost 50-year-old infrastructure that was built for a neighborhood of 12 houses or 13 houses handle essentially 22 or 23 residences? I kind of doubt it. The water pressure is a concern, I think, not just for household use. I don't know much about water pressure, but I'd like somebody to tell me how that works. If you double the amount of residences in a given area, what happens to the water pressure? What happens if there's a fire and the fire department wants to put out a fire? What happens to the water pressure, if it's spread out amongst all these residences? If the infrastructure can handle what's being proposed, then I'm imagining that Parcher Street will be torn up and all new pipes and plumbing and all of that would be necessitated at, I'm sure, a great expense to the city. Another concern I have is storm runoff. We've been assured that the runoff for the particular project will be at a rate that's less than what is currently being run off now, because there's going to be a retaining pond. I question that because the data that's being used is on a 50-year storm water event. In the last 5 years, we've had 6,000-year storm water events. So I think we're using data that, it doesn't apply anymore in our changing climate. So I feel, I have drainage ditches on both sides of my houses. That may be okay for me. You're going to hear from another resident in a minute or two that, his home's been impacted by runoff, and I'm afraid that a proposal of this nature is just going to make it worse for other residents downhill. I don't know much about railroads, but I know there's a raised bed with the railroad that exists, and again, I'm concerned about the runoff and how that's going to affect the railroad. What does that do to the railroad bed when we have a railroad back and forth? I haven't read it. I probably should. I understand that the city fairly recently had a housing survey done, and apparently there's a need for housing. I mean, I see plenty of houses for sale. I see failed condominium units. I don't know if the plan that currently Ellsworth has says anything about condominiums in it. I don't believe it does, but I'll check that. I got to do a little more homework on that one. Again, I don't pretend to be an expert on where developers build, but I believe if developers build in some locations, that the city collects impact fees for, I'll say that, right to build in certain places. I'm not sure why this developer wants to build in a neighborhood that exists and has existed for a long time, but maybe there's like an area in the city where impact fees could be collected if somebody wants to do something of this nature. The next person, I think, will talk about our hope, which is a moratorium on this, and I'll let Mr. Willette speak to that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lewitt. Who's next? Mr. Willette? While he's coming, I just for the record would say that the housing study that's presently underway is a seniors housing study. And it isn't, it's still in progress. We don't have a final draft yet. You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Cole, members of the Ellsworth City Council, I thank you for your time for my comments. My name is Paul Willette, and I currently live at 70 Park Street. I've lived there since 1998. I've been a resident of Ellsworth since 1992, and I've worked as a physician assistant at Maine Coast Memorial Hospital for 22 years. Jim and I are here tonight representing our neighbors on Parcher and Park Streets, as well as Birch Avenue, who would be affected by the major subdivision proposed at 10 Parcher Street. This calls for the construction of 10 two-story attached units, 20 parking spaces, and a new private road on a 1.25-acre lot. We are requesting your audience to request that a motion be made for a moratorium regarding the city ordinance of the neighborhood zoning. A group of 20 or so of us neighbors have met on 2 recent occasions, and 17 of us presented our concerns to the planning board at its November meeting. These concerns are numerous, including the impact of so much additional neighborhood traffic on the safety of those walking for pleasure or exercise, including our children going to school. And by the way, there's no shoulders or sidewalks on these streets. The strain on the existing water pressure, which is already substandard according to testimony of Parcher Street residents. Sewerage that has backed up in different occasions to several homes on Parcher Street in the past. Stormwater runoff, parking, and a small street size for said proposed development. I would ask your consideration for this moratorium on this large neighborhood project because I believe that there is a disconnect between the interpretation in the city ordinance regarding neighborhood zoning and its intent. To squeeze a 10-unit condominium complex into a 1.25-acre lot seems to be quite excessive in a stable, single-family home neighborhood on a small one-block street. In Article 6 of the Site Development Plan Review for the City of Ellsworth, it is written that the purpose of Site Development Plan Review is to, quote, provide an adequate level of review for projects of greater scope and magnitude than limited scope. It furthermore states that the intent of such a plan is to, quote, prevent undue adverse impact upon the natural and man-made environment, the present and future facilities and services of the city, the abutters, the neighborhood and the community, and most of all, to, quote again, sustain the comfort, health, and contentment of residents. I can assure you that there is no comfort or contentment regarding this development from any of the surrounding neighbors. I believe it is not only the planning board's mandate to fulfill this, but also the body of the city council to protect the law-abiding and tax-paying citizens, to sustain the comfort, health, and contentment of its residents, and to prevent the disintegration and adverse effect on the integrity of a small neighborhood in Ellsworth. None of the local residents feel that this project would maintain the comfort, health, and contentment of its residents. In Chapter 56, Article 3, Zoning Districts, it states, quote, the purpose of this neighborhood zone is, not should be, is to protect existing and attract new residential neighborhoods. This development is not proposed as a new neighborhood, and it certainly does not protect the existing one. The current neighborhood zoning allows for a 10-unit parcel on a 1-acre plot of land, 1.25 to be exact. This may be fine in a new, established neighborhood, but not in one that has been established with single-family homes for over 40 years. I believe that there are plenty of parcels of land available, or potentially so, in the city of Ellsworth in order to develop a residential community such as the one being proposed. I wonder, however, considering the poor performance of the Tinker Hill condominium complex, about the need for this proposed development and its success, as well as its structural integrity, given that the budget for this 10-unit condo is only $600,000, including the units and the site preparations that are involved. I furthermore believe that such a proposed development in any of the small neighborhoods in Ellsworth would be opposed by its local residents. To raise doubt on the current inclusions of the neighborhood zone, the current city ordinance also allows for telecommunication towers to be placed in an area such as ours, and I wonder if this is a good idea as well. Is that 1 tower per acre? 2 towers per acre? It doesn't say. I could not imagine having this site in a small neighborhood developed to have a telecommunications tower in a small neighborhood just as much as I can't tolerate a 10-unit condominium on such a small lot, which essentially doubles the size of Parcher Street. For all the reasons that I've enumerated, I respectfully request that the City Council will move, second, and approve a moratorium on the neighborhood zoning ordinance consideration of this proposal, and allow for further consideration and investigation of the serious detriments to our existing neighborhoods seemingly allowed as the ordinance is currently written. I also request, as part of the moratorium, that the Harvey Way condominium project be required to abide by any new wording of the ordinance and not be grandfathered because the process had already been initiated at the planning board level. It has gone through the initial phase, but has yet to have been approved, so I'm expressing strongly that this is an appropriate and necessary part of the moratorium resolution that we are requesting. In the city's efforts to encourage growth and therefore tax revenues, a project such as this has the very real potential to decrease property evaluations and decrease city revenues, not to mention the potential for the disappointment of the electorate of their elected and appointed leaders. If you are not able to make a motion tonight, I would ask that you please consider a special meeting prior to the November 2nd Planning Board meeting for this consideration. I thank you for your time and attention to this serious matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Willette. And Mr. Newitt, anyone else wish to speak on this subject or any other? Council, any responses or anything you want to add to that?
I understand completely. My only concern is, I believe to put a moratorium on our ordinances, we have to have 2 weeks public notice. So if we're gonna do it, we have to put it on a special meeting.
Right.
It would be an unacceptable motion tonight, I believe.
It would be unacceptable tonight, and we have to check the legality with regards to an application that's already in process.
Yep.
So but I guarantee you, we definitely will do that. And we'll do everything we can to move it along if that's what we need to do, and to have a special meeting. So, and if there's anybody in council that doesn't agree with that assessment, just speak up. But I hope I speak on behalf of the body. Yeah.
If it's legal.
Okay. Okay. We appreciate you coming. And if anybody does want to get in on more of the comments that were made, you can go to the video of that meeting, and there were a lot of really good comments, very civil, very well presented, but with a lot of concern, which I understand.
667-6882.
There you go. PaulOlette.com. No. Thank you again. All right, item number 8 is the presentation of awards. The first is for Mr. Tom Farley for 5 years of service with the Ellsworth Wastewater Treatment Plant, and I don't think he's here tonight. So move on to the second item, and that is a proclamation. It seems like Thanksgiving weekend is the big weekend for all of retail everywhere. And this idea has come up in recent years, and we decided we would capitalize on it this year. A Small Business Day proclamation proclaiming Saturday, November the 28th as Small Business Day. So I'd like to read the proclamation, and then we have a number of folks from small businesses here in the city who are going to join me here, some of the chamber members and the folks from the Downtown Business Association, and I'll present them with a formal copy of this resolution. It reads, whereas the government of Ellsworth, Maine celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 27.9 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of American employer firms, create more than 2/3 of the net new jobs, and generate 46% of private gross domestic product, as well as 54% of all U.S. sales. Whereas small businesses employ over 55% of the working population in the United States, whereas 89% of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses contribute positively to the local community by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue, and whereas 87% of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses are critical to the overall economic health of the United States, and whereas 93% of consumers in the United States agree that it is important for people to support the small businesses that they value in their community, and whereas Ellsworth, Maine supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods, and whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I, Robert Crosswhite, Mayor of Ellsworth, Maine, do hereby proclaim November 28th, 2015 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the coming year. And I wonder if I could have the small business representatives who are here tonight, the folks from the chamber, Jeff Buck, the president of the chamber, Susan Farley, the director, and we have some downtown people, Barbara Coleman, Kelly, and Barbara.
Oh, I know. I know. We had a chat.
Thank you so much. Put it right in the front window.
There you go. And I know the press is already picked up on this.
I'm ready for my photo op.
'Cause who doesn't like small businesses?
I are one.
The backbone of our economy.
That's right. Jeff, I'm going to give you that one. Okay, let's bring, how do you want, Steve, how do you want?
I didn't say that since 1982.
Straight in front of the chair, or right in front of the table.
All right, everybody talk.
Yes, yes.
Every politician says that.
Drywall.
That's the year I was born.
There you go.
There you go.
I've been talking a long time.
Yeah, he's not here, he doesn't care.
33. Yeah. Age Christ. You know.
All right, we'll do a couple pictures. There's 1, 2, 3, a couple more.
You could only do it at 33 years.
Wait, Phil,
I look like I need to get on it now.
you.
There you go, there you
You're tall.
Paul, watch your hands.
You can go behind me.
go. Thank you all for coming tonight, I really appreciate it. Great, thanks for being here. Thanks
And I take it that wasn't copyrighted, so they can make as many copies of that and
They
spread it
can?
around?
They can,
She
absolutely.
has to go to bed, so we have to.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, unfinished business. Item number 9, we have just the one item. And this is action on the item from executive session tabled from October 13, 2015, special council meeting. What's your pleasure, council?
Move we deny the request.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Next item is consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda, and we'll take them all as one with no separate discussion unless any council member desires to set an item apart for further discussion. Item number 10 is council order number 111502, requests the deputy treasurer tax collector to accept payments on tax-acquired timeshare units per the attached spreadsheet and authorize city manager to release said properties through municipal quitclaim deeds. Item 11, council order number 111503, appointment of David Cole to the League of Towns. And item number 12, council order number 111504, discussion and action on the request of the Branch Lake Water Steward to set the Branch Lake Boat and Aeroplane sticker fee at 0 for the calendar year 2016. Any councilor desire to have any items set aside for additional comment or consideration? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, move approval as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous. New business, item number 13. Public hearing and action on the following business licenses. First off, VFW 109, 419 Main Street for renewal of a city Class B license, victualler, liquor and amusement, and renewal of a state bottle club registration. Staff, any issues or any problems? No. All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. And anyone like to comment on this application? Yay or nay, pro or con? State your case. Seeing none, close the public hearing. And
Move
council.
approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. The second is Cellar Bistro LLC, doing business as The Cellar, 112 Main Street, for a new City Class C license, victualler and liquor, and a new state restaurant lounge liquor license, Class 1, 2, 3, and 4, for malt, spirituous, and vinous. Any issues with The Cellar? Public hearing is open. Anyone care to speak to this license application? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman.
Council action.
This is a new one. Could we, for the record,
Yes.
get the representative's name on?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was new.
Yep.
Sorry.
Joseph Barinello.
Thomas Halpin.
Thank you.
Welcome to Main Street.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for being here. That's great.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Moving second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 14, council order number 111505, discussion and action on the request for additional funding for the expanded scope of the construction and installation of fiber for the Ellsworth broadband project. Who's presenting?
I see his shadow coming through here. IT Administrator Jason.
Good evening. Jason Ingalls, IT Systems Admin. As you know, we've been working with Tilson Technology to build a fiber optic network in the city. They came to you in February and proposed a route that would start at Water Street at the old wastewater plant to the Commerce Park. The reason for that route at the time was the anticipated incubator facility located at the Commerce Park. Since then, that plan at that location has been scrapped. And with that new information, we thought about revisiting the route. And in talking, we decided that A route that included High Street would potentially be a better route for the network. So I have a map here that shows the new route. Essentially, it leaves the wastewater plant, former wastewater plant site, comes to Church Street, across to Oak Street, and then from that intersection all the way down High Street to the intersection with Beachland Road. The former original route was about 2 miles, and the new route is just over 3 miles. So we're looking at a little over a mile more of fiber. To make that happen, we needed an additional $30,000, which is what we're asking for tonight. Additional cost, more fiber optic cable, more splice work, more connection points. So it's more labor to install the additional fiber, obviously. A couple other benefits of the route are the old route didn't pass any communication towers, where the new route will pass 3 communication towers. That allows us to potentially look at some wireless broadband options or many other potential uses. So there were several benefits that we felt for the new route. Tilson proposed a couple other options that we are at this time not going to pursue. They proposed a 288 count fiber versus the 144, and they proposed a larger shelter that we're not looking to pursue at this time. However, we are negotiating with a couple of local telecoms, and depending on that, we may be back to expand that, but for now, we're not looking to do that. That's it in a nutshell, I think. So.
Questions, Chairman?
Councilor Forde.
I can see it from here, but for the people in the public, it also goes from the former wastewater treatment plant to the harbor marina, correct?
It does. It extends to the harbor park. It was so close that it would be a good opportunity to get them on the harbor master on the fiber network. So.
And Mr. Chair, I would note that a phase 2 going out on the Bangor Road, connecting to that end of the commercial core of the city, certainly would be something to be considered going forward. The sway in this direction, to some extent, mirrored the work of the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation in conjunction with our own Economic Development Office, and where the best place to site potential incubator facilities might be within the city. Plus, the other factor, too, is that Tilson was very creative in terms of looking at options and how to get more bang for our buck. So essentially, with another $30,000, we're getting a 50% increase in miles under this program. We're going from 2.1 to 3 miles. So it's good value,
Yeah.
but it does require some additional funds.
And it also keeps us out of the 1A construction zone of having to move our fiber.
That is something we didn't think about at the time, but it's a very good point. We would be installing this and then paying to
Yeah,
move the line. So.
wouldn't be an optimal time to be in the middle of that. That's correct.
It works out well for us.
One question we get is, how long will it take for the build-out, like until this is operational and people can actually start tapping in?
The estimate right now, if we started tomorrow, you're looking at late summer, early fall, that kind of time frame. It's funny, the most of the work is in preparation, getting permits and make ready on the poles. The actual construction takes very little time, a month or 2 months. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Can I just, whenever we talk about the project, it helps me to visualize why we're doing it, which is we're really creating like a virtual highway or a virtual road, infrastructure-wise. So the way that we build roads and infrastructure within the town, this is a sort of the 20th century
Yeah.
ideation of that.
It's a last mile network. There's a lot of fiber in Ellsworth now, but it's not easily accessed. It's not designed to it's not designed to easily connect to. So we're building a network that it's the last mile. You can easily connect to this and get gigabit service or greater.
And if I could add to that.
Sure. Go ahead.
The idea here is not for the city to be competing with any providers. This is like building a new highway and everybody can drive their trucks over it if they want to participate. What it really is about is most economic development in the world today is tied to technology. And not every house needs gigabyte service. However, if you're a software designer and you want to live in Ellsworth, Maine, but you have clients around the world, you got to be able to upload and get your product out. And around this 3-mile ring or hook or whatever shape that is, we're hoping that we can attract everything from small research firms to back office operations, co-working situations, incubator facilities, entrepreneurs, knowledge-based businesses on it. And if we can be a part working with other providers to get to other parts of the city, great.
Right.
But this really isn't about competing with the other providers. This is about, Maine is ranked 49th out of the 50 states in terms of our internet capacity. And those states and communities that are going to succeed are going to need to have this kind of service going into the future. And with our good fortune of having Jackson Lab coming to the city, it would be great to be able to help some smaller firms that don't have the buying power of a Jackson Lab to be able to get access to, similar kinds of internet outreach.
And the important
Thank you.
thing to remember, Mr. Chairman, is this is not a highway, it's a toll highway. They'll be paying to utilize it and connect to it, so it's not a freebie, it's a toll highway.
Right. Council action.
Mr. Chair, move to approve up to an additional $30,000 for the expansion and scope of the Kobe Fiber Network project to reach Beachland Road, to be funded by proceeds from the sale of the former Collier's Nursing Home facility. The total project cost is not to exceed $308,445.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Counselor Fortier.
Of which 250,000 was a grant.
Yes.
Correct.
So this
Correct.
isn't the city spending 308,000.
Right.
Correct.
We received a lucrative grant on this.
Anyone else? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Item number 15, Council Order number 111506, request of the Deputy Treasurer Tax Collector to waive foreclosure on the property located at 931 Bangor Road, map 075, lot 013, 000000. Good evening.
Good evening. Title 36 of the Maine Revised Statute states that the municipal treasurer can waive the automatic foreclosure by a vote of the municipality's legislative body. If a waiver is recorded, the tax lien mortgage remains in force but does not automatically foreclose. Instead, court action would be needed to foreclose at a later date if desired. Waiver of foreclosure is typically used when a municipality wishes to avoid acquiring property that may be burdensome. With that said, I am requesting to waive foreclosure on the property located at 931 Bangor Road. It came to the city's attention that there is questions regarding the ownership and or assessment of the building and land at this location. I'm just requesting for waiver of foreclosure. This means, I spoke with the lawyers. They believe that everything will be all set within the next year by waiving foreclosure. By this time next year, hopefully they'll have everything paid up. If not, we can still foreclose next year.
Thank you.
Knowing the amount of burden on that, I think a year may be optimistic, but we hope to pray that it does move along. It's been going for a while now.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the request of the Deputy Treasurer Tax Collector to waive foreclosure on the property located at 931 Bangor Road, map 075, lot 013, 000000, as requested.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 16, executive session to discuss condition, acquisition, or the use of real or personal property in accordance with MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 405, Paragraph 6C.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. We are now in executive session. And that's it. Item number 17, Council Order Number 111507, discussion and action on the item from the executive session.
Do you want any discussion, Mr. Chairman? You want to get a motion and then discuss?
Well, take a motion and then we can discuss it.
Move to authorize the city manager to execute all documents necessary for the acquisition of the Community Health and Counseling Services land and building located at 415 Water Street in Ellsworth at a price of $125,000, plus up to $30,000 for property and building improvements. In addition, up to $25,000 for first-year operating costs associated with utilizing the CHCS property as a business incubator. These requests totaling $180,000 are to be funded from the proceeds from the sale of the Colliers property.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Publicly, I think we need to thank Economic Development Director Nikki Sumter for her
Here, here.
extensive work on this and successful outcome.
Thanks very much.
And it is exciting because this has been a project that's really been promoted by the Business Development Corporation, the folks that have been involved there too. So we want to thank them for their diligence here. And it's good. Go ahead.
And the name of the incubator, if, I don't know if you all remember it, is Union River Center for Innovation.
Union River Center for Innovation.
Yeah, and that's because with all the grants, and that's what the board came up with. And it just happened to be on Union River.
I know.
We did that 10 years ago.
You're right. That was done long before this
Before
ever.
it was on the river.
I remember going back and forth. What do we call it? What will it be called? Yep. And we have interested parties already, so this is what makes it even that much more exciting. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 6-0, unanimous.
Move adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Moving seconded. All in favor? We are adjourned.